Frederick Simon has answered to many names down through the years. Son, Fred, Private First Class, Mr. Simon, Dad, Granddad. But there's one name in particular that we've all come to know him by, Freddie. That's because Freddys Simon, a 1949 University of Wichita accounting graduate who was born in 1925 and grew up on a farm near Colwich, Kansas, is the namesake of Freddy's frozen custard and steak burgers. He is the Freddy in Freddy's. And Freddy's is an American entrepreneurial success story that began right here in Wichita. Drawing on their father's life story, personal values, and commitment to family and community, two of Freddy's 6 children, sons Randy and the late Bill Simon, along with business partner Scott Redler, founded Freddy's in 2002.
We were fortunate to have Dad lend his name to our business and allow us to put pictures of his history around the walls of every store. And it's not just in the Wichita stores that we have those. Those pictures are basically the same in the 338 stores throughout the country, from coast to coast and from Minnesota down to South Texas.
You know, we were very fortunate to all be living in Wichita, Kansas. Wichita State University had one of the first centers for entrepreneurship in the country. That attitude really does flow through the city. And opening the first location, the second, has really taken our great hometown restaurant and helped us grow with people that have done other businesses, not afraid to try things. They know that sometimes they win and sometimes they don't. But hey, Freddy's is a great thing. Let's open 1 or 2, and now we have franchisees with, I think one group is up to 64. A lot of fun.
Well, he always tells everybody, I'm just an old farmer, old farm boy. And I think, you know, his growing up on the farm during the 30s and the 40s, you know, that was kind of the target we were shooting for with Freddy's. Also, his character and his reputation in the community, it gave us just a great DNA to build from.
You know, we have the thing we call the Freddys Way. And what does that really mean? And Freddy emulates, he expounds everything that we do with Freddy's is based on doing things the right way, being kind to other people, having a culture that we have very little turnover in an industry that has very high turnover. And it really, you go back and you think about Freddy, a super nice guy who was very successful, raised a wonderful family, and we take all those attributes and you put them together, that's the culture of Freddy's. And that's the thing that we take and make everyone loves working there, love coming to work. How many people can say that?
Before attending college on the GI Bill, Freddy enlisted in the U.S. Army during World War II. He received a Bronze Star and Purple Heart for his service.
Right out of, well, actually in sophomore year of high school, he was at that time attending Mays High. And the Pearl Harbor was bombed, and he and some of his classmates went and tried to join, but they were not 18 and they were turned back. And so he graduated in May of 43 and then entered the service in June. He was assigned to his troop and his division and ended up in his first battle in New Guinea, and then went from, he actually turned 19 in a battle in New Guinea, and then went from there to the Admiralty Islands. And in the Admiralty Islands, he became a Browning automatic rifleman. And he went from there to Luzon and on to the Battle of Manila. And it was in Manila that he was wounded and received his Purple Heart. A mortar attack hit their troop, and he got peppered with some shrapnel. And he thought he was going to get to go home, but they sent him right back in, just patched him up. And then he was in the battle to take over the Manila Hotel, which is where General MacArthur had his office before the Japanese took the island in the first place. And he just said it was not a good time. It just a lot of bad things happened during the war, but I do think it was probably the last time he ever made an enemy, because he has been friends with everybody since then. So.
Both Freddie and his wife, Norma Jean, are native Kansans. They raised their family in Wichita, where Freddie worked for more than 50 years as a wholesale liquor salesman.
And then he was at a wedding right after he got back from the service, And my mother was a twin, and she and her twin were bridesmaids. And as they were walking up the aisle, my dad leaned over to his sister, who he was with, and said, "I'm going to marry that girl right there." And so nobody can figure out how he knew which one was which, because they were identical twins. He would talk about the benefits of education. He always emphasized that with us kids. And I know one of the other stories he tells is he grew up on a farm, and it wasn't easy work during the Depression when he was real young, and then later on it didn't get a lot better than that until after the war maybe, but it was always kind of a struggle. And I know he and his brothers used to bale hay for a penny a bale. And when Dad got out of high school, he weighed 128 pounds, and so he was not big, and those bales can, if they get wet, they can weigh up to 40, 50 pounds. And to put up a bunch of those at a penny a bale is not the easiest way to make a living. But he talked to his dad and said, "How do I get out of this farming business?" And his dad said, "Well, you go get an education."
Wichita State University has long been a valued entity in Freddy's life. As a student on campus in the late 1940s, Freddy studied hard and played hard, too.
I remember him talking about getting to play twice against the 1945 national champions, the 1945-46. Back then it was Oklahoma A&M, now it's Oklahoma State University. And they had a 7-foot player on their team who was one of the first 7-footers that ever played in college basketball. And they were coached by Henry Iba, who's a very famous national basketball coach in the Hall of Fame, College Basketball Hall of Fame. But both games they lost, but both games they played pretty close. The one here in Wichita at the Forum, I guess, got decided in the fourth quarter. And it was just a thrill, to be able to play against the national champions. So Wichita had a high-profile program even back then. Well, speaking for the Simon family, we couldn't be more honored to have Freddie recognized like you all are doing here tonight.
Well, I just want to thank Wichita State for honoring a great person, somebody who is genuinely a nice person.
Tonight, please help me congratulate Frederick Simon, Freddy, as our 2018 Alumni Achievement Award honoree.